Chapter 1. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. Aristotle. The door burst open, startling me. The wind blows the scent of fresh-cut grass past me. I breathe it in deeply. He rushes in with great urgency and crosses the room in only a few strides. I sit up, thinking that something must be wrong. He is acting so strangely. Falling to his knees just inches from me, he puts his hands on each side of my head, cradling it like a delicate piece of china. Pulling me into him, he kisses my mouth passionately, like the taste of me is going to be his last. Slowly, sliding his hands to my hips, he guides me to the edge of an overstuffed couch. His lips start moving down my neck. Pulling up the old cotton shirt that I am wearing, he reveals my irresistible and luscious behind. Lifting the shirt over my head, he leaves it behind my back to keep my hands from touching him, and exposes my firm breasts. He greedily sucks and nibbles on my hard nipples. Rolling one around with his tongue, he pinches the other between his thumb and forefinger. I let out a squeal of delight. He gently guides my body back and uses his shoulders to keep my legs apart. He buries his face so deep between them, I feel my body tighten with excitement. His hands still tormenting my nipples with pleasure, his mouth still kissing my Venus. The combination of such an overwhelming sense of ecstasy. Before I know what is going on, I lose all control. An eruption of sweet juice flows from deep within me. Hungrily, he licks up every drop, and only when nothing is left, he stands up and smiles at me. He turns while he is walking towards the door, and he looks at me. Thank you, Venus. I was thirsty. I wake to the soft patter of rain landing on the tin roof above me. Shaking and wholly disoriented, what in the hell was that? I look around and realize that my satin shorts are thoroughly soaked, and the intoxicating scent of my mystery man still faintly lingering in the air, almost as though he had actually been there in the flesh last night. Great, I think to myself. My first sexual experience is with a mystery man in a dream. Disappointed in my subconscious, I sit up, putting my feet on the warm, heated rock floor. It is nice not having cold feet in the morning. That kind of thing has never happened to me before. I am not the kind of girl that dreams about mysterious lovers. I am refined, dignified, not a dreamer like some women, and certainly not a promiscuous woman like the ladies of the night. I have a life plan and I don't have time for foolishness. Helena continuously reminds me of the fact that my existence is only due to the charity of her father. I don't want to live my entire life at the mercy of others. I want to travel and see the world. I want to go to college and learn business like Adrian, so that I can get out from under the oppressive thumb of my dear cousin Helena. I realize that this isn't the most traditional way of life. But I don't want traditional. I want extraordinary. When I look back at my life, I want it to be a life that will make my parents proud. I pause for a moment to think about the stories my sweet aunt has told me about my mother and father. My father was an incredible businessman, building his coal empire from beneath the earth to the top of the highest mountain. And my mother never stood in his shadow. Instead, she opened her doors to the people who worked for my family. She healed the sick and wounded, built homes for the elderly and the orphans, and together they created such a healthy community. The line between employee and employer was blurred, almost invisible. Instead, the town was like one large family. I feel my stomach tighten and twist. The loss of my parents still hurts to this day, and that is why I must have my life in order. I must stick to the escape plan. I will continue with the smoke and mirrors, chasing after Helena, hiding her indecent behavior from my kind aunt, who would die if she knew the truth about her daughter. I lean my head back and close my eyes, taking in a disappointing breath at the thought of Helena and what she does at night while the rest of the world sleeps. Oh, Helena, why do you always have your head in the clouds? Or more likely, buried in the pillows of the highest bidder? I chuckle to myself, open my eyes, and look out the window. The morning is beautiful. The sky is gray, full of dense clouds, and a misty rain has set in with no intentions of leaving. The air is cold and moist. The first signs that spring is upon us. As much as I love the long winter months, I am looking forward to spring. Spring turns into summer, and summer marks the beginning of my freedom. I wrap myself in my robe and walk to the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee fills the house. I sit down at the table where a cup is waiting for me to fill it. My Aunt Clara walks towards me with a hot craft. Good morning, my beautiful Mina. How did you sleep? I slept well, thank you. I had an unusual dream, though. Not one that I want to talk about, but it was strange nonetheless. My aunt is the salt of the earth. My parents died when I was young. She and her husband, John, took me in. They raised me as one of their own children, with my cousins being more like beloved siblings. Clara is my father's older sister. Like my father, Clara is tall for a woman of her age, standing at 5'7". Her legs begin at the earth and never stop. Her delicate, thin frame reminds me of the fairy queen in our childhood stories. Her long black hair hangs past her hips. We both have our family's signature forest green eyes. Her soft, round face, thin almond eyes, and thick black lashes are a window into her loving soul. Her perfectly bow-shaped full lips and straight, rounded tip nose gives her face an angelic look that makes it impossible ever to be upset with her for any length of time. She is also the reason why leaving my home here will be almost next to impossible. Clara is wise, loving, and an excellent gardener. You wouldn't know it if you looked at her delicate hands and her perfectly long fingers that don't look like they have seen a moment of hard work. Clara also has a temper. It is rarely ever seen, but it is deadly. People have said that when Helena and I were getting ready to be created, God put Helena in the wrong womb. So I had to come through my father and mother for my aunt to have me. My uncle praises the fact that I am the spitting image of his beloved Clara. Your father used to have dreams, vivid dreams. They were like a vision of things that were to come. I don't think it was that kind of dream. It was just strange for me to imagine. I haven't dreamt since my parents died, to be honest. Maybe your heart is finally hearing the spirits speaking. Oh, Auntie, aren't I a little old for fairy tales? I don't know, Mina. Are you? A smirk comes to my aunt's lips, and I can see a little mischief in her eyes. I love being in her presence. I don't know how she manages all the things that she does and still be able to keep a beautiful garden year-round in her greenhouse. She teaches the children at the church twice a week and visits the women in town when they are sick or having children. Clara manages the house, keeps my uncle in line, and has Helena. Plus, she always knows where her son Adrian is. I am amazed and can only hope that I am half the woman, wife, and mother that she is when I finally find my place in this world. Good morning! I smile as I hear the loud sing-song voice of my uncle. The women in my uncle's life have made it a point to wake before him. We sip our coffee and listen to the world slowly come to life. But the sound of my uncle's voice is filling the halls, and seeing the blue of his eyes signals the day has officially begun. He is, after all, master and commander of his castle. What universal god did I please so well to have a household full of beautiful goddesses such as these two that are sitting before me? I see Clara blushing, and she hides her smile behind the palm of her hand. Oh, John, you have always been such a flirt. I hear her giggle, and she swats him with her napkin. He sits down with us and begins to tell us stories of what the workers around the house have been doing this morning. John's voice takes a serious tone, and I catch him looking right at me. I panic, thinking I have missed a question John might have asked. I am sorry, Uncle. I was lost in thought and missed what you asked. His eyes soften and he sips his hot black coffee again. You missed nothing, little Mina. I was just admiring your beauty momentarily. I feel my shoulders relax and listen to him as he continues. I am thinking about getting another stallion in the spring. I believe it is nearing time to retire the old one. Clara laughs at John's joke. He isn't talking about getting another horse. He is talking about this being the year that he is going to introduce my cousin and me as eligible bachelorettes. I thought that we were going to wait until the summer solstice to present the girls to the world. There is a moment of silence at the table. You are right as rain, my darling wife. It is a good thing that I have you to keep me straight. Life hasn't always been this peaceful with my uncle. He used to run his house with an iron fist. You couldn't get anything past him. He had his rules, and you followed them to the letter. You didn't ask why. You didn't talk back. You did as you were instructed, no questions asked. His father was a lifelong commander in the army. He was the meanest man I had ever met in my life. He ran his house like he ran his unit, and John's father raised his children as if they were soldiers in his army. My uncle and his siblings were taught to have hard hearts, never to question authority. They lived by the motto, "The great thing about excruciating pain is that at least you know you are alive." My uncle's father was the worst, and his son didn't stray far from his father's path. Adrian always got the worst of John's wrath. Adrian was supposed to learn all of the trades of the workers around the house, keep his grades exceptional, and be clean in time for dinner, bed, and church. As the years passed, Adrian grew older. He also became wiser. Learning how to avoid John's wrath was his highest priority. Adrian would get his work done, then disappear so that he could avoid contact with his father. Adrian would show up clean for dinner, then collect the scraps and take to the hogs. It never failed. There was always more work that needs done that would keep him away until dark. On Sundays, Adrian would come to help Clara and I with the children and food boxes. Once, I tried talking to him about what he did when he was alone, hiding from John. He would look at me harshly, telling me it was none of my damn business. So it did not surprise me a bit that when Adrian was old enough to make his decisions, he asked to go to a college that was far from my uncle's reach. The day he left, I watched Clara's heart shatter into tiny little pieces as the driver took Adrian to the train. After several months of being gone, Adrian came home to visit. I was so excited to see him again. We had been writing to each other every day since he left. Helena had become jealous of the fact that we had grown so close during that time. Then one day, while Adrian was home visiting, he found my uncle in a trance of some kind. When Adrian tried to shake him awake, my uncle went utterly mad and attacked Adrian and Clara. He started throwing chairs and books at Clara. When Adrian tried to stop him, John punched Adrian in the face so hard that he blacked out. When Adrian came to, John had Clara pinned against the wall, with his hands wrapped around her throat, choking her. Adrian grabbed a cane made out of oak and smashed it into the back of John's head. John hit the floor completely unconscious. Adrian and Clara were able to drag him into a room and lock the door so that he couldn't escape. Adrian found Helena and me and hid us away in a secret passage so that John wouldn't see us if he came to and fled from the room. Adrian returned to where he left his father's unconscious body and was unexpectedly confronted by John, who was acting like a demon possessed him. John and Adrian fought hand to hand. Adrian was trying to save the life of his mother and not killing the man he called father. After that day, Clara was always by John's side. Anytime she was away from him for too long, his nasty temper would start to show again. It was almost like Clara had a spell on him. Only she knew how to handle him and keep him from losing control once more. To this day, no one can explain why it happened. After that, things began to change, and John became more pleasant to be around. Helena withdrew to her room, and Adrian left traditional college to start traveling for business on my uncle's behalf. Clara and I began studying more in her garden, where she would teach me our family's lost traditions. My aunt's heart was tested to its fullest extent that day. If anyone ever questioned the love and devotion she had for her husband, she proved it. Somehow, she managed to forgive him. I asked her once how she can live with a man who tried to kill her and has made her cry on numerous occasions. She told me that when you love someone, it is forever, not just when it's convenient. She said that I wouldn't honestly be able to understand the idea of real love until later in my life. I look at my uncle and smile. Mina, my beautiful girl, have you thought about the party yet? No, I haven't really. I am sorry. I am just not that into parties. Planning something that I am not excited about and is months away is not high on my priority list. I know you are a busy girl, Mina, but I want you to have a role in planning this party. He pauses and takes a sip of his coffee. This party is as much for you as it is about Helena. I promise, Uncle, I will start to think about some ideas. He smiles at me and picks up his coffee. Well then, ladies, if you need me, I will be in the library, doing what I do best. He walks over to me and kisses the top of my head. Whatever you find yourself doing today, Mina, be happy. You look like something is bothering you, and I can't stand to see you like this. He pauses for a moment, taking a sip of his coffee. And because I am not a woman, I won't ask you about it. But if there is something or someone that needs a reminder of who you are, you will let me know right away. Of course I will, Uncle. He smiles at me and pats me on the back. Good girl. Then he turns on his heel and starts walking to his library. As he walks away, his loud voice fills the hall. Clara, I forgot to eat. Please bring me a tray of meats and cheese. He pauses for a moment. And some healthy things too. Whatever you feel is necessary. He pauses again. And thank you, dear heart. She grabs her mug and kisses my forehead. I love you, Mina. Helena was out late, so you have plenty of time to enjoy your dream and your coffee. I smile at her. I can feel my face turn red, my ears heat up at the sound of her talking about my dream. I can't help but wonder if she knows that I was dreaming about a man. I can't imagine she would know about the things I was dreaming. She is so pure and perfect. I love you too, Clara. I watch her walk into the kitchen to get my uncle's food. I look out the window into the foggy morning as pictures of my dream play out in my head. I hear the cooks come in, and I am startled by the loud banging of pots and pans moving around the kitchen. Oh, sorry, miss. We didn't see you there. We will be quieter for you. I look at them and smile. It's all right. I was daydreaming. I need to get dressed anyway. What were you dreaming about? I look over, and a new, younger woman is working in the kitchen. I arch my eyebrows in curiosity. And you are? Who are you? Her eyes narrow into defensive slits in her face. I give her a puzzled look and realize that she must be new. My name is Mina. My aunt and uncle own this place. I live here with them. Her jaw drops and the blood leaves her face. She stumbles. I reach out to catch her, but she jerks away from me. Oh my gosh! I am deeply sorry for my rude behavior. Her pale white skin turns beet red. I am no one. I am so sorry. I should have never asked you that. I look at her confused. It's okay. Really, it is. I try to figure her out. I, for your sake, would remember that I am Mina, and that Helena, who is still in bed, is not as forgiving as I am. Thank you, miss. I will remember that. Irritated, I look her in the eyes. My name is Mina. Please use it. I don't like being called miss. I pick up my coffee cup and turn to walk away. Have a nice day! I take my mug and the carafe of hot coffee and walk back to my room. I find my bed already made and the reading lamp next to my window seat waiting for me. I take a sip of my coffee. It's still too hot. I sit in my chair and look out the window. I take a deep breath and think about what that girl had asked me. Who am I? Who am I indeed? I often think about who I am. In my soul, I feel like there is so much more to me than what I am here in the house of my aunt and uncle. Who am I? Where did my parents come from? Where did my home go after I came to live here? Where are my parents' people? And why have they abandoned me? In my soul, I feel like great adventures await me. I have a great desire to run and explore. But I am tethered here, tethered to my uncle and aunt, and to the life they are planning for me. I think about it a lot. Who am I, honestly? And the answer every time is, I am Mina. There is not much to me. Some of my favorite things in the world are rainy days, fog, reading, and learning about all sorts of new ideas. When I think about it, without Helena, I would live a quiet life, tucked away in the perfection of the woods. I will be married off to a man I know little to nothing about, and expected to learn to love him and birth his children. I will be lucky if sex will be as satisfying as it was in my dream, or I will have a lifetime of making love with my eyes shut. I sigh, taking in a long breath and reluctantly letting it go. Winter has lasted way too long this year. I hear Helena's voice whining on the other side of the door. I roll my eyes and get up to open the door. You know that we've had record snow levels this year. Helena looks at me and rolls her eyes. I don't care about the snow, Mina. She takes the mug out of my hand. But I am looking forward to spring when the snow melts. The days get longer and turn into long, hot summer nights. She sits there smiling, her white teeth showing. I look at her. Was the night not long enough for you, my dear? She sits down as I walk over to her to get a better look. My God, Helena, what happened to you last night? From across the room, I can see her hair is tangled. Not as if she had been sleeping, more like she had been drug around by it, leaving it a ratted mess for me to make sense of. Her eyes blackened not from trauma, but from her mascara running and smearing. Her lip stain has turned into rouge. Every step I take closer to her, I notice her physical appearance gets worse. I have seen whores standing in windows that are in better shape than Helena. Why do you want to know, Mina? I think she might still be intoxicated. The smell of alcohol and tobacco clings to her. I scowl at her, taking a better look. You look like hell, Helena. I cannot tell you about my night, Mina. My night would scare you into a convent. She laughs at me. You would be a virgin for the rest of your life. It is bad enough you are 20 years old and still haven't known the feel of a man. She laughs again, and I can feel myself burning from embarrassment. Is it embarrassing to be the only 20-year-old virgin on the planet? I pause for a moment, trying to think of kind words to say. Mentally, I am screaming at Helena to mind her own business. On the outside, I remain calm and graceful. I am sure I am not the only 20-year-old virgin. I cannot possibly be the only woman on the planet that has more respect for myself than I have for all my worldly possessions. I turn and look to see the surprise on her face with my answer. Besides, since when have you been so concerned about my personal life? Maybe the question is, why do you think about my virginity? She pauses for a moment, then takes a deep breath in and lets it out slowly. If you must know, sweet Mina, last night I was out with Rupert. I roll my eyes at the sound of Rupert's name. He is a man whore and a pimp. He runs a brothel in town. Honestly, I think the only reason he is even allowed in our presence is that he brings entertainment to the businessmen of our town and its visitors. But also because Rupert lines my uncle's pockets with the profits he brings in with his whores and toxic drink. Men love to talk money when their lips are wet with whiskey, and women who know no difference are there to hear about their enormous fortunes, as if any of it will be shared with them. Well, a small piece of it will. A small portion, given after his seed fills her, and she has given yet another part of her soul away to the highest bidder. I roll my eyes at the thought, and my stomach turns. Then the sound of Helena's voice breaks my silence. We were playing cards in the VIP room at the Chateau Chantilly. I roll my eyes again at hearing the name of his sordid brothel. One of the men asked if I had a sister. Of course, I said no. She paused for a moment. But Rupert mentioned that I do have a cousin. Not only did he mention that I had a cousin, but he also mentioned that you were a virgin. My jaw drops and I am in complete shock. The man said that he couldn't believe that, and he offered to pay $1 million to have it verified. He also offered another $1 million for you to let him take your virginity. I feel like I am going to faint and reach out for my chair. Are you serious? I am so angry that I am having a hard time hiding it. Yes, I'm serious. You are beyond repair, Helena. I sit down before I scream or pass out. Mina! The sound of her whiny voice is driving me insane. I said no. Not just no, but hell no. I don't want to hear any more about it. From this point on, my body and my virginity are not to enter your head or be spoken about amongst your vile friends. I stand up and walk to my window. I turn and look at her. I am not a prostitute, and the selling of my virginity would make me just that. I walk back over to her and raise my voice to ensure she can hear me. What part of I am waiting do you not understand? I pause for a moment. I know love is out there for me, and I am patiently waiting for it. I sit back down, reach over, and take my mug away from Helena. I sip my coffee, trying to calm down. Mina, you are a fool. She stands up and throws her hands in the air. Do you know what $2 million will buy you? She puts her hands on her hips, standing there, looking at me. It will not buy me respect, and it will not give me my dignity. Her jaw drops. $2 million would allow you to support yourself. Helena pauses for a moment, only to see the pain in my eyes and reload her insult cannon. You would no longer need to live off my father's fortunes. Our eyes meet momentarily. I see her scanning me for injury. When she doesn't get the satisfaction she is looking for, Helena continues. He is a respectable man. It isn't like he is trash. You would be lucky if a man like him took pity on a pauper like you. I am in complete shock that we are even having this conversation. I said no. I take another sip of my coffee, trying to control the rage that is bubbling within me just beyond the surface. But Mina! Her voice pushes me over the edge. I said no. Drop it, Helena. I won't hear another word. I look at her and clench my jaw tightly, trying to win the battle of control within myself. Fine then. I won't tell you about my night. She is pouting with her arms crossed. She almost looks like she might cry. Like a petulant child who doesn't get their way. I look back at her, wondering if I should even say another word. This moment is mine to spare me from hearing about the man or men who defiled Helena last night. But then, I know she will make my life hell if I don't indulge and make it seem like I am slightly interested. Okay, Helena, you win. I hate feeling like I must continually make her happy. But I know that if I don't listen to her story and pretend to care, she will make my life miserable.